Well, greetings. This is Iron Horse here, reluctantly making a video about absolutely nothing. I know how boring. The thing is, there are just so many things, so many daily events, so many conflicting ideas that I come across on a daily basis that I worked myself up to the point I'm going to have to make a video to address that. And then I realised I've got to make a video to address that, and that, and that, and that, and that. It's taken me all day before I could finally just have a freaking shower and wash my hair. It's a Saturday evening thing here. It's a tradition in my household. Anyway, cheers. We'll just have a little sip of the green stuff. I'm not a spirits drinker. It's medicinal vodka. It's had basil soaking in it for okay, it's cannabis soaking in it for, I think it's just reached the second week now, so perfect timing. It's been clearing out my sinuses too, and I've been clearing them out in the shower. I don't know about anybody else, but I always brush my teeth in the shower because, otherwise you get toothpaste in your facial fluff and stuff. You will have to forgive me because I'm still coughing up a bit of stuff or clearing out sinuses. And I think that's the most important thing that you can do is clean your teeth, clear out your sinuses. I even had to get some colloidal silver, which is just basically distilled water with some sort of silver minerals put into it. It's not a cure-all for anything, but I do know that back in the day when I was using it, and my ex-partner, who was 6 months pregnant with my youngest child, she spent 2 weeks in hospital because she didn't believe me about the stuff they're spraying in the sky and wouldn't trust me on how good colloidal silver could be as a preventative measure to stop you from getting sick. So while she was nearly dying of atypical pneumonia with my youngest child in her belly, I carried on with the business and worked without a hitch. In fact, I've never missed a day of work with anything like the flu ever since. Hangovers, maybe, but an injured knee, I once missed a day of work for that. But apart from that, I'm not saying that colloidal silver is a cure-all for anything, because if I said something like that, that's the sort of thing that gets my videos taken down. And YouTube have been notorious for taking down some of my videos in the past because I've said something bad medical advice or whatever, but then when you go to see where you said it, it's taken down, so you don't even know what you said. So I'm definitely not giving any medical advice whatsoever. I'm just saying what I do for myself personally, what works for me, and clearing the mucus out regularly, like daily, especially if you're eating dairy and stuff in your diet. If you're not clearing that out daily, you'll get to the point where your body goes into a bit of what they call a healing crisis or something, some sort of event where it has to create all this extra heat and might shake and then expel heaps and heaps of mucus all at once. Well, that's the price you pay. So, because I know that I like cheese on my pizza and stuff like that, if I don't clear this stuff out on an almost daily basis, well, it's just going to build up and make me really sick. But that doesn't happen because I clear it out on a daily basis. And I personally find that just when I'm getting blocked up and mucusy or whatever, or a sneezing fit, for example, that spraying colloidal silver up into the sinuses, for me personally, helps me clear it. Now, I do not recommend anybody does that without medical advice from a medical practitioner. Don't listen to what I say because I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm just a human being staying alive and healthy. So That said, there's so much I've had in my mind that I wanted to talk about that I feel like I better have another sip. A good video editor would edit that stuff out, but I've never edited a video in my life apart from when I did in a course one time. Julian Rock's Perspective, or Julian Spective, I called it, because it's edited. It's on my playlist, that Perspective videos playlist. If you don't know anything about perspective, I strongly suggest you watch that playlist. Watch every one of them through and through, because they're nothing special, nothing fancy, but if you don't understand the way convergence works, then you'll never understand why we have a sunset on our flat Earth. It's as simple as that. You have to understand perspective and convergence. Everything converges to our level. And it does it over a very, very long distance. I mean, here's a ruler. I'll try and bring it up close. You see that? Is it going to focus for us? Come on. It's not going to focus. I'll get my ugly head out of the way. It's probably too close. But as you can see, the tiniest little demarcation on this ruler. Actually, no, it's not the tiniest. It's got 0.5 millimeter measurements. It's the second tiniest. It's a bit like orbital speed. 10 times faster than a railgun projectile is just our second slowest speed. The second smallest demarcation on that ruler, that's 1 millimeter. And so in perspective, if you're going to draw something to scale, then you draw one of those teeny little second smallest demarcations on the board, and you'd have to have 3 boards long to show how a normal human perspective standing at sea level, 6 foot, 180 centimeters, looking out across 3 miles, 5 kilometers, rounded figures. That's what it would look like. That big to that big. So perspective is very, very hard to draw a diagram of. Now, I thought about, I've got the whiteboard there. I can try and draw diagrams and show how the sunset would look from a human perspective, but it's really not possible or feasible. That's why the flat Earth has no model. We're often getting lambasted for not having a cohesive, or a not just cohesive, but a uniform model that we can all agree upon. And that's a fact, because most people haven't got a clue. Even some of the top level flat earthers, in fact, the top of the level, I don't mean to brag or boast or try and put anybody down for that matter either, but the higher your level of understanding, the more you know nothing. That's just a fact. You can come up with a simplistic model. You can try and say, well, sun and moon are doing this and that. But the fact is, we simply do not have a model, because you cannot model reality. So when people are talking about the flat earth model, show me the edge, where's the edge, Fluff? Well, that sort of shit. It's like, dude, you haven't even started to look into what is flat earth. You haven't even begun. If you're asking questions like that, then you are a brainwashed, ignorant, willfully ignorant fucking moron. Now, yeah. And I'm not here to put you down. I'm just here to explain. That's what you are. You're a fucking brain-dead, brainwashed, ignorant moron. Super duper ignorant. Anybody that looks into flat earth for at least a couple of days realizes, okay, the concept of an edge is ridiculous, because we're not in space. Hang on a second. Pardon me. We're not in space. Now you might ask then, well, where are we? And that's the age-old question since the beginning of time. Where are we? And you think a flat earther is able to give you a comprehensive answer to such a complex question that's been plaguing mankind since the beginning of time? What we can really do is the process of elimination, which is, I think I've got that from a Sherlock Holmes book originally. But detective work is the process of elimination. You eliminate that which is impossible, and then eventually what you are left with, no matter how unlikely, seemingly impossible, then that is the truth. That's what you're left with. So you eliminate the impossible. And the impossible of the spinning space ball is A, spinning, B, curvature, C, I'll stop listing A, B, C because I haven't written a list down. A pressurized atmosphere contained by a vacuum, the ability for the vacuum to be a container with an invisible pulling force that can't even pull water out of a straw if you lift a straw out of a glass of water. It's too weak to do that, but it can hold the entire atmosphere. It's hurtling 10 times faster than a railgun projectile, the second slowest speed, mind you, around the sun. The sun itself is going about 90 times faster than a railgun projectile in another direction. The Earth itself, spinning on its axis, is going 1.35 times the speed of sound, and the moon is just wafting around us, much like clouds and bugs and birds flying in flocks. All this stuff is getting shifted at these amazing speeds. To me, that is absolute insanity. Sanity is understanding we live on a stationary planar Earth. Water seeks and finds its level. Land is the topographical, geographical, legally measured landmass above sea level. Wherever you go, if you're going to buy land, it's going to be legally defined as whatever feet above sea level or meters or whatever the case may be. You cannot buy land that is below sea level. Nobody can own it, and why would you? What's the point? But if you follow the curve of a globe, virtually everywhere is below some sea level or another in some direction. The globers think that every direction is up, away from the center, every direction is down towards the center of the spinning space ball, which means basically the entire world's surface is the edge. That's their fabled the edge that they keep looking for. Everything is the edge. Every direction is up and every direction is down. It is the height of insanity. Flat Earth is the absolute sane understanding of where we live. Water level, land topography above it. Water hits the land, it flows down back to water level. Rivers thousands of miles long are going up and over thousands of miles of curvature. I couldn't believe it when I did the maths today. It works out to be a pretty good ratio. If you're looking at 400 miles, there's 20 miles of drop. If you're looking at a river like the Nile, it's 4,000 miles. That means there's 2,020 miles of drop from one end to the other. And the water itself only drops about, from memory, I didn't check that bit, but from memory it's about 1.5 miles, maybe 2, let's call it 2 miles, from the highest point, Lake Victoria, to the Mediterranean Sea. 2 miles of drop, and yet there's 2,020 miles of curvature hump on a globe for that water to flow up and over before it does 2 miles. 1.65, 1.75 miles of actual drop. And if you really think about what a true amount of drop is, one Burj Khalifa, world's tallest building, is it Saudi Arabia Qatar, I can't remember. Also, know it's the world's tallest building made by these oil barons who, all of us burning fossil fuels in our cars, are making filthy rich. So they've got to do something with all their money. And they've made the world's tallest building. It is 1/2 of a mile high. The world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, 1/2 of a mile. In just 60 miles of distance anywhere across the surface of the earth, we must have a Burj Khalifa of drop. From any single point, wherever you go, you have dropped a Burj Khalifa. But if you're going back the other way, are you climbing back up a Burj Khalifa? You know, this is a question I often ask globers. I said, which direction is up curve and which direction is down curve on the globe? They don't care about that. They think it's all just, it's flat and level and curved. This is the hypocrisy, the globe paradox of people that can believe in such nonsense at the same time that you've dropped the equivalent of a single world's tallest building, Burj Khalifa, every 60 miles, but you also drop it back the other way. You drop it this way and that way. And if you put 2 points together and you said, okay, well, let's just make them 90 miles apart, well, that's 2 Burj Khalifas because the curve gets exponential. So you've got 2 Burj Khalifas from this point to that point, and you've dropped down 2 Burj Khalifas from this point to that point. So somewhere in the middle, there must be a Burj Khalifa of hump. That's the equivalent of the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal has no hump. It's flat and level across the entire distance from one end of the Mediterranean to the other. The Burj Khalifa is actually well and truly 1/2 of a mile high above sea level and land level and the level stationary plane of Earth. I mean, so it boggles the mind that people think we're the dumb ones, that we are stupid, that we don't think things through. We've had no education. We don't understand physics. We don't understand maths. Big numbers scare us. I've heard everything under the sun. Every single thing. Hang on a second. Pardon me. I've heard every single thing under the sun from the globe defenders. And at the end of the day, all they've really got left is ridicule. And that is a result of the fact that these poor buggers, just like probably you or I and everybody else that went through the schooling system, that grew up with our peers and did all the rest, some of us became victims of bullies. And I do not approve of bullying one little bit, but it is part of our process of growing up, is you have to learn to defend for yourself to a degree. And I've seen victims of bullies actually lash out and do some pretty darn stupid things. Like one guy I know in high school, he was a big bully, overbearing, but he'd try and pick on the weak people. And he'd often pick on me, but I'd fight back and just hold my own and make sure I didn't get pushed into the back of the workbenches or whatever. But this one young fella, he was quite a small fella, and so he lashed out with a steel file and just whacked him in the arm and hurt him pretty bad. And I thought, well, that's what happens. So victims of bullies eventually lash out. So this is what the globers are today that you find across the internet. These are victims of bullies, and they're looking for exacting some sort of revenge. And they've decided, flat earthers are so stupid. Man, I'm finally smarter than somebody. Alrighty, low picking fruit. I'm going to go and pick on them, and I can finally feel good about myself and go home to my wife and say, I beat up on a flat earther today on social media. Oh, yeah, it was Facebook. Well, yeah, but I called him a flirt, give it to me. Yeah, like, this is the problem. They were victims of bullies. And so naturally, everybody wants to find a way of getting some sort of revenge against humanity in general. That's what people do. Flat earthers are the wrong people to pick. We are today's big brains. We are today's scientists. We are next century's Newtons from back in the past, where people like Newton were quite brilliant in his time, but today he's been surpassed by according to Mandela. In fact, now his name is spelled Einstein, but flat earthers are the ones who are doing the science. You do science by questioning science. You do not do science by believing like a good religious believer. That's called religion and faith. That's what sort of got us into the mess in the first place, considering Copernicus, who gave us the heliocentric model in 1543. People say, well, we've known for thousands of years the Earth's a globe. The first one to put it in motion around the sun didn't do so until 1543, and that was actually published posthumously 2 years after the guy had passed away. So he couldn't even talk about it, couldn't even refute his own works. Whereas meanwhile, when he was alive and he just came up with this hypothetical situation where if the Earth was one of these wandering stars also going around the sun, then technically we can put the sun in the middle. But the idea is preposterous. It's impossible because the Earth is obviously not moving. But the Pope encouraged him. He said, I think you should work on that. Now, I've previously mistakenly said that he was then placed under house arrest to work on it. That was actually, what's the telescope guy again? Starts with H. It'll come back to me. It's not Hippocrates, no. It's, hang on a sec. It was close. It doesn't start with H, it starts with G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. H. Yeah, it's before H. Galileo Galilei. He was the one that was placed under house arrest by the church, because by that stage the church had sort of backflipped and said, we're not going to believe this preposterous nonsense, even though we like having the sun in the centre, and it suits our purposes, because once you put the sun in the centre and make the Earth a little spinning space ball twirling and whirling around it faster than lightning, basically what that does is it says that whoever discovers that, Copernicus, under the rule of Pope one or another, John or something, who the fuck cares? I don't care. One of the popes, the church, the Vatican. Once you discover that, then according to Black's Law Dictionary, then that which you find lost at sea becomes your property. So they found the Earth lost in the galactic sea, the galaxy. Now the church has legal ownership, and this is an important thing because it has to be legal. Because according to a lot of the biblical law and so forth, which I'm not 100% attuned to, but according to it, is that which the government decrees law becomes God's law. And until it's passed into law, so it does have to pass into not just LAW, but LORE. There's lots of law. Until it's passed by a committee of peers, shall we say, of learned men, the government, to govern our mental condition, the rulers of the mind, until a certain number of them can agree to it and put it in writing and pass it as law, legislation, and sufficient number of people, we the people, do not come forth and contest it and write petitions against it, then silence means consent. So when they tell us that these are our laws and we don't revolt and rise up against it, it becomes law. So they've claimed ownership of the entire world, all its wealth, property, and livestock. And we, the people, are that livestock. That's why you pay taxes. If you're a sovereign citizen, you don't pay taxes. So why are you paying taxes? because you're not a sovereign citizen. You haven't declared independence. But to declare independence generally means you need an army behind you. You can't just declare independence as an individual, because what happens? You disappear. That's what happens to genuine sovereign citizens who stand on their own 2 feet and declare themselves a sovereign, but they don't have an army. They've got no people behind them. I mean, sorry about that. My hair's getting dry slowly and starting to get in my face more and more. A sovereign nation needs to defend itself. So what are we defending ourselves against? The entire world, bought and paid for by the Vatican, who have been collecting tithes of citizens for centuries. That's where all the wealth is going. That's where it's all gone. And I came up with an analogy, probably just this morning. Oh, no, it was yesterday actually. I was on my break. I wasn't at work. I was at work on my break. Because, and hang on a second. I need to swallow that lie. Sorry about that. I've got hair everywhere. My hair is just falling out faster than I can grow it again. It's ridiculous. So yeah, where was I? Something about some sort of lie. That's right. I said I was at work and on my break. Yeah, maybe. Well, I was on a break, so that's not a lie. I have to trace my thoughts back again. So I was talking about an analogy. That's right. So let's say that back in the day when it's still normal and okay and permissible, just like in the Bible, to own slaves. Okay, so that's normal. You own slaves, you bought and paid for them. You have to house them, feed them, clothe them, and basically give them some basic amenities. And in return for that, you make them work for you. You say, well, I'm not going to give you food if you don't go and work. In fact, I might even take this whip and give you a little snap on the back or something like that to let you know your place. But, you know, I can only beat you to within an inch of your life. It's against the law to kill you, basically. But so you've got your plantation and everything's going fine. You're giving them some decent housing. It keeps them alive. And you give them 1 day off a week so they can worship their whatever they believe in, and things are fine. And then one day somebody somehow gets the word out into this plantation that, hey, across the hill over there, there's a plantation, and apparently over there they only work 5 days a week. They get 2 days off. And not only that, they can make beer and wine and smoke the flowering parts of the hemp plant with their tobacco. And they're even given double rations every day of the week and fine clothes to wear when they go to church on Sundays. And it's like, overnight, the word gets around, everybody rebels and they go off to the next plantation. And there's nothing the other plantation owner can do, because this other plantation owner, he's rich. He's got guards, and he's like well happy to have more workers. And it sort of makes the workload for everybody even easier. So things are getting better on this plantation. Everybody's really super duper happy. And meanwhile, the other plantation is getting pretty pissed off. In fact, he's talked to a lot of other plantation owners around who were just like him and said, we're losing all our workers because they're getting better conditions over there. What can we do about this? But then, eventually, word gets out to these people in the better plantation that just over those other mountains over there, Antarctica, there's a place where you only have to work 3 hours a day and 3 days a week. You can drive luxury cars, and for 6 months of the year, you can fly around for free anywhere you want to go. In fact, you don't even need money. Anything you want, You can just appeal to the governor and within condition he'll just say, yep, no worries, you can have that because you've got a good reason to use it. And the slaves all hear about this. And you know what happens? Is all the plantation owners get together with this other one who's doing pretty well for himself and says, yeah, man, we don't want to lose all our workers. I know what we'll do. Let's just say that the boundary around the edges, we'll just collapse that into a ball and say that that's the edge and there's nowhere else to go. And so as far as you go, there's nowhere else to go. That's it. Everything's been explored. You can't go any further. There is none of this promised land. There is none of this fabled stuff. You're stuck here. Now get back to work or we'll throw you in jail. That's why the globe exists. Everybody goes, but why would they? What do they have to benefit? Derp. That's what they have to benefit. Is that all their workers would leave to somewhere better, as they seem to have already done. Think about it. When you look at all these buildings, the Tartarian buildings, the same sort of style built in every nation from Japan to England to the US to Australia, everywhere. Pretty sure they've got them built pretty much everywhere. The people who built that obviously said, okay, we've extracted as much wealth from this land as we can. We've helped the native people out as much as we can. We're going to leave them in happiness and we're going to go further and help another place. It's the invaders. It's the colonists, the colonizers. It's the English, the Spanish, the Portuguese, you name it. They go out and colonize these peaceful, happy people and convert them and convince them that there's no more land. I actually intended to talk about things like the free energy device that I intend to build and the way the sun works and isn't the sun, but sometimes I feel like I just want to get really, really angry. Just really angry. So angry. But I don't. Well, I am. But I hold it on the inside. There are too many stupid, ignorant people. And I say that in a nice way, because they are far worse than that. They're really, really, really stupid and ignorant, looking to take out revenge. What you do is you forgive your enemies. You forgive the past. You forget it. You let it go and you realise, rightio, what is this bloke talking about? A flat and stationary earth and potentially greater plantations over the hill. That's what you need to think about. That's what you need to get into your head. That's why you're a slave suffering Stockholm Syndrome, defending your masters, ridiculing people like myself. Because you are a clueless, dumb, ignorant, willfully ignorant fool. But if you're not, then hey, cool. Welcome aboard. We're all flat earthers. Every single last one of us was born a flat earther. It took years of indoctrination to trick you otherwise. So those of you who still right here and now do not realize that they are a flat earther, it's because you're willfully ignorant. You have chosen not to pursue knowledge. You have accepted that which you have been indoctrinated with since childhood. And you have ridiculed those who have escaped that cult mentality, and you are trying to drag them back. That is what you glurfers are. You are trying to bring people back into your cult mentality to say that we're on a spinning space ball going around the sun. No. Your time is done. Your time in the sun is done. It ain't cutting water. No more. Or was that holding water? I need a better last line. I think I better just have a sip and think. I had a sip and think. And what I found on the sippy episode was that, see, this is just a segment of a ball. You could think of that as just a segment. And it's conveniently put a map inside of it. I don't know if you can see it that well because of the reflections and stuff, but it's meant to represent a map inside of it. As you can tell by the fact that it looks like a map inside of it. But it's a segment of a ball. What part of that would hold water? 0. A cup, on the other hand, how much of that would hold water? All the way to the top. That's the difference between a glurf and a flurf, is we know what holds water and we know what doesn't. I think that's a good parting line. I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for watching.